What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to talk a little bit about energy exchanges and how to use energy exchanges to not to your benefit, I guess. Not to just constantly be being drained of energy by putting your attention towards things that are frustrating, triggering, things that you want to attack. All these types of things can be draining of energy. And one of the things about becoming more and more present and mindful is keeping track of your energy and looking at things almost like electrical circuits, in the sense that there's either a drain of energy or there's a flow of energy, back and forth, and looking at who in your life is adding energy to you. Ultimately, the source for the energy is within you, and looking to the outside to power your energy level is one of the things that can start to draw it from you and feel like a drain of energy. But a lot of that is an illusion that you start to stumble into because you're forgetting the source of where the energy even comes from. So step one, I guess, in kind of energy exchanges is kind of keep track. Be mindful of what is draining you and what is feeling like it's a boost, and then kind of going within yourself and see what kind of narratives you're telling about the situation and the person, the event, whatever. Because the more that you're mindful and realizing that now is the only time that really matters, I guess. Everything else is kind of either reminiscing about a past that's not real anymore and a future that's unknowable. There's a sense that you can try to predict the future, but a lot of that, when you just kind of give up, I don't want to say give up, but when you kind of surrender the future to infinite intelligence, that God's bringing the ideal outcomes in every situation, and not so much spending the present moment reality, which is the only time that's real, in states of want or not enoughness. A lot of times, if we're in desire, it's showing you what you are unconsciously assuming, which is against your actual identity in Christ. For example, it's like a lot of times you start thinking about food when you're hungry, which is saying that you're not full. So a lot of times we can get stuck in these cycles, these patterns of not enoughness, and begging and pleading God to change states for you and manifest a new outcome, when we can start to embody those states in the present moment, because that's the only time that's real. Use those kind of negative polarities in consciousness to create energy. I was really on this kick of learning how electricity even works, and it's such an interesting rabbit hole. And it's like someone that has a handyman business, it's like changing switches and fixtures and light bulbs and shit like that. It's like I was always taught that it flows like water through a pipe, as a way to visualize it. But, just like everything else in my life, it seems like, oh, yeah, that's not exactly how it works. And so kind of realizing, how the currents just move back and forth. Like a switch will, once it's closed, then it will, go throughout the whole thing. But when it's open, it's interesting to think in terms of energy like that, like electricity, in forms of consciousness, where you have the negative polarity and then you have the positive polarity, but the movement from back, from one to the other is what creates a lot of that flow, that current, and so looking at these things that happen in consciousness, when they become maybe a fear creeps in, a limiting belief, whatever, a bit of programming from the old slave mind starts to reemerge when some random thing happens, and it's like, oh, I got to keep myself safe from this threat, or I have to attack this because I'm threatened by this separate force. Looking at that, more and more so through a lens of oneness, and not trying to destroy that part of creation either, but using it as contrast in consciousness. So it's like, oh, I feel hungry, instead of like running a story about how, oh, scarcity is real and, I'm going to believe these illusions, use that as contrast to, embody who you actually are in Christ. It's like money is a good example of that. If you're constantly begging and pleading because you're in scarcity, and that swings both ways. If you don't have enough, and if you have a shitload of it, and you're in fear of losing it, fear is the glue that kind of, that's the opposite end of that current. So if you're, constantly in your mind worrying about someone stealing it from you, becoming a target, becoming a victim, becoming, or just losing it all to, market forces or some shit like that, put the brakes on at that moment. Realize, that God's with you. The source for, these things that you're desiring comes from within. And then as you embody that new identity of already having these things, God will then mirror, that through consciousness back to you in the form of material manifestation. And that's something you can test and try for yourself. This is more about energy exchanges, and instead of constantly just being drained by everything and everybody, and it's like, oh, I'm running late for work. Oh, now I'm going to hit every fucking red light on the way there. Oh, drain, drain, drain. It starts to feel like mosquitoes, it's like when you actually keep track of your energy, because it's only ever now. So it's like you're only ever getting drained of energy now, or you're building it up, and one of the easier ways to build up even more of it is by giving it to others, because there is no others. It completes the circuit and it comes back to you, and it's like you invest that energy in others and it flows through this current of creation, I guess, and that comes back multiplied. And so, one of the ways to start building up your own energy is to realize that God is the source for your energy that's within you, and you can tap into it more and more so in the present moment, not feeling like a low energy person, where you're constantly trying to go from one source of energy to the next source of energy to the next source of energy, just all these looking outside of yourself for that. And I can, I've been guilty of that, on YouTube videos, especially when you have people talking about spiritual concepts and metaphysics and shit like that, people at different levels, it's just who you're embodying. You can just be embodying a high energy person, and that resonates almost like a tuning fork, where it's like you're vibrating at a certain energy, a certain field, current, whatever, and just your vibration of that between the two polarities of fear and love, which ultimately there's only one, there's only love, but there's an illusion of separation which causes the current. But the more that you have taken these different fears and these illusions of separation, walk them through the lens of like the Holy Spirit, and stop listening to the voice for separation, but start listening to the Spirit of God, to go over all these little limiting beliefs and assumptions. Well, then you're just vibrating at a different kind of frequency or whatever, and as a result, then people around you, like a tuning fork, start to harmonize to that frequency, and it starts to become mirrored back to you, and stuff like that, whereas like if you're constantly just like looking for someone to motivate you, to inspire you, to whatever, make you, help you feel uplifted, feel energized, feel a certain way, you're putting the authority and you're putting these things on other people. It's one thing you see people at a different level. Jesus, is at a different level than, other people. But, we're all on this, different spiritual walk, not to start comparing and stuff, but it's like, there has to be some sort of objective like vision for the future. It's like if you see someone playing guitar, for example, and they're just like on another level when they're playing, and it sounds awesome, and it's just, like you can just resonate with them. Well, that gives you kind of a next level, next milestone. But it's important not to become hung up on that destination, but to start to enjoy the journey of just like, well, I'm just going to steward what I have, because what I have right now is a perfect reflection of where I'm at in consciousness, and to grow, to evolve, to get better and better. It's just like normal. It's like normal for us to do that. It's part of creation, I believe, is to constantly grow and to expand and evolve and lower your, get out of this chaos into more and more order, into more and more, what do they call it? Entropy, less and less entropy, whatever that, you go look at Tom Campbell's Big Toe. He does a great job explaining that kind of stuff. But what you can start to do just in the here and now is keep track of your energy, and look at things as energy exchanges. Look at things as an investment, that's going to come back to you. That's one of the tricks of the old slave mind, is to think that everything, has a force and a cost. It's if I give you something, then I lost it, instead of realizing, if I gave you $1, it's going to come back to me multiplied, so it's it doesn't feel like loss when you're I'm just investing this, it's going to come back to me double, triple, whatever, whatever God decides to do, it doesn't matter, but looking at these different states of being in the present moment and going, okay, am I experiencing a divine state of being in the here and now? God said that, I'm already blessed. Do I feel blessed? Well, if you don't, well, there's the block. There's the resistance that, very, very similar to even electrical language, resistance, it kind of, resistance, in electricity, I guess, is what, kind of, I don't want to say slowers the flow, but, it just what is it? It's almost like a hole in a pipe, I guess. Is a way to think of it. Or it's just putting a barrier so it's not flowing like a dam in a river. I don't fucking what. So these metaphors, but it's kind of the same thought though. It's these mental resistances. It's when you realize that God's the source of just energy and that is within you, and that you can start to feel that energy now. A lot of times you can feel it start to bubble up inside of your being, and then this is what happens for me at least, I can feel it on the inside start to more and more, almost like when you see something like a baby, or you just feel this love energy or whatever, and then it's the resistance is, I gotta push that energy away, because it's making me almost just too, it's too intense, it's I gotta push it away. Well, part of moving forward in energy exchanges is just to be able to almost be able to handle more and more levels of energy without pushing it away. And it's the same thing when it comes to stewarding what you have, your spouse, your family, career, all these milestones of shit. If you're constantly just well, in 5 years when I have bigger and better things, then I can be happy, or then I can feel at peace. Because most of the stuff we're trying to achieve is just peace. We're trying to do these things because we want to feel peaceful. We don't want to be in chaos. We don't want to be in drama all the time. And so looking at the things that can relieve fears. Ultimately, the biggest thing to relieve fear is to realize that fear itself is an illusion, and that whatever is causing the resistance in the present moment to push away that love energy, and just that intense, this vibrate, whatever, you can start to feel it yourself, and whatever little narrative you're telling yourself of why you need to push that away, that's what you need to let go of. So it's all about just letting go, of these narratives and these beliefs and these assumptions that are disempowering, not real, that are limiting, that are verifiably, you just got to look through all these different things. I was listening to a guy, he's kind of insightful. And they was talking about, you listen to all these spiritual people on the internet, and they're all talking about how to open your third eye and all this shit. It's all of these teachings unconsciously assume that your eyes are already closed, instead of the reality, which is it's already open. It's always open. The idea that you have to go through this thing to open it, it's it's already open. It's like it's in the here and now. It's already open. It's these stories and these bullshit dramas in your mind that are telling you that it's not. That you need to struggle and strive to figure it out, and you just let those fucking disempowering beliefs and assumptions go, and start to embody who you are in Christ, the new you. And when these things happen in consciousness, where it's like, oh, there's a disempowering thought, there's a disempowering belief, there's an assumption that's limiting. Take it to God and ask, what's a better way to think about that? And just by starting to ask the question and developing your relationship with God, the more that you'll almost like learn the language of like the spirit, where it's just like faster and faster. It's like instantaneously. It's like you have a question that's simultaneously answered. And the same thing with like when you have like thoughts that you're believing are real, and then you're experiencing fear in your own, and you only experience fear in your own mind. And once you realize that you are creating the fear by believing thoughts, that most of those thoughts are based on separation, or is the problem. Well, then you can just start going, well, that's stupid. Why do I keep doing that? It becomes stupid to do that, because it's not doing anything besides creating more and more drama. But in those types of things, you can look at that as being part of an energy exchange and start to redefine, revise how you're dealing with part of creation. God created our mind to work a certain way and to create a false self before we realize the true self. I don't know exactly why, but like as part of like the unfolding mystery of creation and consciousness and everything else, to sit there and think everything, it's like everything is constantly evolving and changing, and so even that idea of self is it's like you are spirit. It's like if you are identifying just as a brain and a body, you're missing out on who you actually are, and so part of understanding who you are is understanding what does that spirit mean. What is that? What's this new label? What's this new word about? And part of that is learning how God uses these words. It's like what these limiting words even. They're all symbols to express a spiritual idea. A lot of times a spiritual idea gets manifested in the physical, but if you don't get hung up on the changing physical, but look at the spiritual back of it, it starts to make more sense. And you do that through practice and by a lot of times just by going through the process, trusting the process that you're being led through. Ultimately, it's God that leads you through the process. You don't got to worry about how it's going to work out and how it's going to play out. You just got to stand in faith when whatever happens, that only love is real and that God is with you right here and now. And in doing that, if you're not doing that, it's easy to then start to feel how all these things in creation start to drain your fucking energy all the time. It's like if you don't look at things somewhat as like energy exchanges, it's like you see these negative events and these negative situations. Well, a lot of that's just making this current. So you can start to, instead of just being drained by energy vamps, start to realize that you can you can redefine these things. You can look at things differently. You can freely give energy because it's an investment that'll come back to you anyway. That the source for energy is within you, and that you are the source for energy in the lives of people around you. You can redefine it in a more empowering way like that. But ultimately go within yourself and ask God what to do about energy exchanges, especially if you're being drained of energy all the time. That's a big red flag that something needs addressed. It's like if you got a leaky pipe that's constantly being drained, it's like, I try to have a rain barrel, but every time I go to water the plants, it's drained of water. It's like, well, you got to kind of figure out where these leaks are coming from. And then a lot of the time, it's not so much the outer event, circumstance or person. It's the narrative that you're telling yourself about it. And so a lot of like fixing these energy exchanges that are a deficit, that are leaving you feeling like tired and worn out, triggered, maybe made you unconscious for a little bit, and you're just lashing out and attacking shit. It's like, look at the story that you told yourself. You have to connect the dots looking backwards a little bit. It's like, how did I get here? What happened? Oh, what? I got annoyed, and then I started spiraling, and then here I am. I spiraled and attacked things and verbally did. Now I feel drained of energy and everything else. Well, start looking at that as, well, energy just flowed in a direction that kind of created more separation, more drama, more chaos. When you can start to use your energy a little bit more efficiently, we're just like, I'm not going to sit here and get drained of this by ultimately by the stories that you're telling yourself about it. These metaphysical, I don't know what you call it, entity, just these thoughts, can either be draining or empowering, a lot of different ways, but if you're thinking of it in terms of like generating a current, it just flows, it's flowing regardless, and ultimately there's only creation, and God created creation, and there's only love, so there's only, there's only that energy. It's just how we are interpreting it, and it's how we're using it. And if we're using it in our old identity of separation, then the energy exchanges cause deficits, because you realize that you're not connected. It's like someone can take it from you and then it's gone, but the only way that could be is if they're separate than you, when that's not real. They're not separate from you. So like, it's something to think about, it's like something to explore too, keep track of your energy like it's more valuable than money, because in reality it is, there's all sorts of things vying for your attention and your energy, and what you put your attention on directs the current of that energy. So it's like, do you want to keep putting your attention and growing the undesirable, or you want to put your attention on and energy on the desirable? That's your free will choice of what you do. It's like, it doesn't matter to me what you do. It's like, it's just something to think about. If you want to create separation, fear, chaos, drama, be drained of energy because you're not realizing the source of energy is within you, that's your choice. And I guess, to complete the circuit, some people got to be like that, so, God bless those people, but, it's something to think about, and so I think I'm going to balance, like, yeah, I had the chicken meat bird butchering last week, which, went good, it's like, I bought a new knife, to do that, and everything really, pretty intense experience, and that was like a real energy empowering experience then too. It was weird, kind of weird, like something different though. But yeah, I got to go feed the chickens now. I got to go take care of them. I got the 3 turkeys to take care of. It's like a really nice day, and hopefully do a fire outside and do some yard work, and yeah, I just kind of enjoy the flow of the day. And other than that, I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. I appreciate your spiritual support and your financial support. Thank you for that. I appreciate it and put it to good use. And I think that's going to be it. So till the next now, everybody, God bless.